I was just going to make an announcement. Council's in an executive session right now, so when they're done, we'll start. But they're not done yet.
evocation tonight, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the atrocities being created by Hamas in the country of Israel, and wish that all the people who perished left positive memories for the people, their families. So if we could have a moment of silence for them, I appreciate it. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana?
Here.
And Mayor Panto?
Here. We can move on to approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
There's approval in a second. I'd like to ask that item 13B be withdrawn. I move that.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Okay, Mayor, that was to amend then the agenda, correct?
Correct.
Right. Now a vote to approve the regular. That would be,
Is there a motion to approve the
we'll go with Mr.
as amended?
Yeah, and Mr. Brown made a motion and so did Mr. O'Connell. So, okay, this is the vote now to approve the amended agenda, which we removed item 13B. So Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Action on our minutes of the September 27th and October 2nd.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved in second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
For the last, I'd say 6 months, I've been meeting with 4 gentlemen who've been very interested in creating a skate park in the city, and I'd like them now to make their presentation. They know. They already have their
Okay.
laptop and everything. They were in early. They were in here like 3:30 this afternoon.
Practicing. They even bring their own computer.
And just to follow the rules, you have to give your name and address before you speak.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Corey Bernetti. Address is 140 Northampton Street. I own a Five and Dime skate shop down there, and I really wanted to point out.
Could you spell your last name, Mr. Bernetti?
Oh yeah, B as in boy, R U N as in Nancy, E T T I.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. I'd really like to point out Frank Pinnabone, who came to my shop like several months ago, and got the wheels turning on this thing. He got it set up with meetings with Mayor Panto, and over the past 8 months or so, we've been having monthly, bi-monthly meetings, and I just wanted to point him out that he's been very supportive.
Thank you.
My name is Jake Baldini, address 2333 Pennsylvania Avenue, Martins Creek, PA.
And spell your last name, please.
Baldini.
D-I-N-I. Okay. Thank you.
My name is Bill McWilliams, and I live at 50 South 2nd Street, Easton, Pennsylvania. It's McWilliams.
South 2nd Street?
Correct.
Thank you.
So to start our presentation, I wanted to show you all a fly-through of a skate park that the skate park contractor we want to build the park sent to me, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about when we say a skate park. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sorry for the lag, but what we just showed you is what a current up-to-date skate park looks like in 2023. That's 10,000 square feet, which is what we're proposing that the city builds. We passed out a presentation for everyone that I will bring up here.
I like your comment. If your city doesn't have a skate park, your city is a skate park. That's
very true.
Yeah, and to that end, I mean, it's not meant to be
Very
like tongue in cheek, but it really, if you don't have a skate park and you have, obviously there's skateboarders, there's BMXers and stuff, and there's not a place to go, we end up on public space, which is a problem, I would assume for you guys because it's public space, and it's a problem for us because we don't have a place to go, which is why we're here tonight. So again, I'd like to thank council for allowing us to come up here and speak to you. Again, a huge thank you to Frank Pintabone for kind of facilitating all of this. And again, basically that just sums it up why we're here to talk about a skate park.
Question for you, just
Yeah.
off. Do you have a specific site that you're looking
That was
at?
my first task.
We
First
do
task I
actually.
gave him was to find a appropriate.
So yeah, the first couple meetings, that was definitely a hot topic for us, and we did go through several locations. It's all in this. I can address it now, or we can wait
Oh,
until
yeah, no.
till we get into that part.
Andy, why are you standing in the back? Go up front. I can't see you. You're too short. Andy was here a long time ago. What was that?
Oh, yeah.
5, 6 years ago.
At least.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, thank you everyone for coming out, everyone that supports this idea. Clearly, there's a big following. This is just a fraction of the community. And this is also, it's a multi-use facility. So it's skateboards, rollerblades, bikes, scooters. This is for everybody. And it's also, it's a park space. So, and we'll get to the location, but it's in a scenic spot. It's for everybody really. And it's an amenity to the city. It will bring people downtown. It will bring people parking in the garage, shopping at shops, going to the restaurants.
So what's the ultimate ask from the city, though? Just the
That's
property?
also, that's
Just the
also,
parcel?
well, the city actually owns the property.
Right, but are you asking just to give it as in kind, or what's the? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what the actual
So, I mean, we could,
outlay from the city is.
yeah, so the location is 507 Lehigh
Right.
Drive, which is owned by the city. It's an overflow parking.
Right.
The reason that we are looking at that specific location is the vicinity to downtown and also the West Ward, South Side. We're looking at this from the perspective of the citizens of the city
Sure.
being able to use this park. Kids that don't drive, that can't drive to a skate park somewhere outside the city. This location is central, kicking it on their bike and coast downhill and end up at the skate park.
And not end up in a neighborhood.
Exactly. Yeah. It's. I don't want to say corral, but it's
Down around
you're taking people that would otherwise be on public space and saying,
Okay, gotcha.
here's this location. There's nothing residential close to it. and yet it's very downtown adjacent and convenient for all different sections of the city, which is why we landed on that particular location.
Do you have any committed funding at this point, or this is just in its preliminary stages?
This is like very preliminary. We did speak about that. We've talked about doing a 501c3. We've talked, I mean, like I said, we've been meeting with Mayor Panto for 8 months now. So all these things have come up and we have started to address them. And a lot of it is in here once we get to those slides.
Gotcha.
All right.
Dr. Ruggles, just a quick question. I noticed in one of your slides here that you said that one of the existing skate parks was built in phases. Is
Correct,
that
yeah.
something that's possible?
Absolutely, yeah. And that can be as the funding comes in. There could be an ultimate plan for this is what
Right,
we want to
right,
build,
yeah.
and we could say, okay, we raised this much money, that's phase one. Then we start another round of
Okay.
fundraising, phase two.
Okay.
All right.
Who's the designer?
That would have to go out to a bid, but there is a very reputable local company that does this, that all of our financials are based off of, and the fly-through that we just shown is their design. All the designs, for the most part, in there are designed by Fifth Pocket.
Who is this?
They're called Fifth Pocket,
Fifth Pocket.
and they're a skate park developer.
All right. Didn't they do Bethlehem?
I do not believe so. They did. You probably speak more about what Fifth Pocket's done.
They've done a lot of recent skate parks
I know the name.
around Pennsylvania. One in Middletown, PA. There's an example in the back. Yeah, maybe Andy could give us some insight on who built the Bethlehem Skate Plaza. I'm not sure, but
Mayor, since the public doesn't have.
You have to come to the mic.
Can they go through their slides?
come up to the mic. Come up to the mic.
The Bethlehem Skate Plaza was built by a coalition of different contractors. So they used F.A. Rohrbach, who was a local contractor, to do any of the site work that wasn't needed to be shotcreted, which is what skate park builders like Fifth Pocket specialize in. So that's any of like the curvature or the tighter embankments. That has to be a special process that a general contractor like F.A. Rohrbach or any of the other ones that do development can't do. So it was a combination of them plus Grindline Skate Parks, who are a developer outside of like Portland. Grindline Skate Parks also designed the new skate park in Allentown, Jordan Skate Park. But like they said, it has to go out to bid. So the bid that won Jordan was Spawn Ranch. So
Mayor, can they
Yeah,
go through their slide?
Yeah, I'm gonna hold the questions, so, because it's all answered, a lot of the questions are answered in their presentation. Go ahead, Corey.
So this is our next slide. Just a few things that I wanted to point out that maybe not everyone would understand about a skate park is that it is a multi-generational and multi-use place. I know people from all walks of life who ride skateboards and BMX bikes and scooters, and they all do it together. There could be a doctor who's 50 and a kid that's just starting out, and they could be in the same place doing the same thing.
Go helpful.
Which, so I think that's the main point of this slide, is that it really brings people together as a community. And the next is that it is a nationally recognized Olympic sport. It was in the 2020 Olympics, and it is an official sport, something that would maybe benefit a lot of people in the community. To add to this slide. So then moving on is just, examples of budget and designs from Fifth Pocket, which is the contractor we want to build the park. And then the location, which is the bus parking lot at 507 Lehigh Drive, which, like Bill had mentioned, is very accessible from all neighborhoods. It's in the city and also not in a residential area. Do you have anything?
The space is actually about 50,000 square feet. So this would take 10,000 square feet. We still have room to park the buses for Crayola, and we still have room for people to drive to the skate park and park.
I think also it's very walkable from downtown. There's already an asphalt path that leads you right there. You could go to the farmer's market, you could walk your kid over, drop them off, and head back to the farmer's market, do a little shopping. It's a great location. Just wanted to throw that in there. All right, so this is, this for you guys to look at probably more in depth than just on through a PowerPoint, but this is Fifth Pocket's breakdown of cost. And I think that this is relatively standard, but the prices here are inclusive to the design, the site work, the labor, and the material. There's a prevailing wage versus a non-prevailing, which we can get more into farther down the road. I think if the funding goes through a 501c3, there could be a possibility to go with non-prevailing wage, which would either save us a lot of money or just spend the same amount of money and get us a much larger facility or just a better facility. Either way, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. And then, yeah, this touches a little bit more on raising the funds. We can definitely go private route. I know the Valley Health Network is very generous, along with St. Luke's. And then, like I said, the 501c3, that would be kind of on our end. And there's a ton of grants as well that either matches funding or it's just specifically for building skate parks. And that's all avenues that we would look into.
Definitely hope to do a lot of fundraising on a grassroots type level and community outreach so that maybe if there are people that aren't in this room that want to be part of the skate park project, we'll know about it before moving too far. These slides are just more examples of designs. This is Bethlehem Skate Plaza, which is in Bethlehem.
I think also too, we're pointing these ones out because they're specific to our area. So Bethlehem was kind of the first of Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton to go this route of a concrete, a state-of-the-art skate park, not just a couple of ramps thrown in a parking lot, which is the standard now. It's a concrete skate park is the new standard. Allentown, quick to follow. They're on their first phase completed of Jordan Park, and I believe that's going to be done in 3 phases. And yeah, we're hoping that Easton will be next in line to get on board with this this movement. I think we could definitely, the city could definitely see a lot of positivity from this. So just touching on this again, basically the whole goal, the reason why we're here is just to have a high quality permanent concrete skate park in the downtown vicinity. These concrete skate parks, once they're built, have very low maintenance. So it is a little bit of a cost up front, but once it's there, it's a pretty timeless piece. It'd be free, use at your own risk type of park, ADA accessible features. We could do concessions if that's something that the city's interested in doing, host events down there, things like that. But really it's just a community gathering place. The location's right there on the river. I'm assuming that there'll probably be some kind of seating, maybe some picnic tables. It's a place that there's nothing really going on currently, and it's so close to downtown, it's walkable. This could be a location that all of the city can use, whether you ride a bike, you ride a skateboard, or you just want to have a nice walk down by the river. It's just a whole community thing for everybody. Yes?
If it gets built, regarding maintenance,
Sure.
who do you think would be responsible?
Parks Department.
Would you want the city to be?
I would, yeah, but like I said, it's very low maintenance. Even the Bethlehem Skate Plaza, for instance, has been there for 12 or 13 years now, and the maintenance on that has been really minimal. And the maintenance that has, like, let's say there's a little bit of chipping concrete, the actual skateboarders have gone in and just patched it up, and that's been perfectly fine.
In Bethlehem, does the city maintain it?
Yes, they do.
They do? Okay, all right.
I have to revert to Andy for that.
So technically, yes, the city of Bethlehem does maintain it. It's maintained by the Parks Department. But just like they're saying, over the last, since it opened, can somebody remind me when it opened? 2010. They have not, the city of Bethlehem has not had to invest in a major, they clear out the trash cans. And when there's graffiti, these people here cleaned it up. The people that are standing in this room are also the same people that have, they were saying, fixed the minor cracks and things like that. have stepped up. So the city has not had to make, since 2010, any major investments to repair the skate plaza. So it's definitely low cost. You're not mowing lawns and things like that.
That's true.
That's true. Gives the users a sense of ownership then, sense of responsibility. Yeah, sure. That's great. That's great.
Let me just say this. It's been a long time coming. I know the mayor and the rest of the council on different occasions has tried to put a skate park here. I would have never thought of that area. That's perfect. It's perfect. It fits every item that you said. It's in the city, but not in the city. It's a walking path. It could be down by the river. It fits the community, whether they're down there with their kids or they at the farmer's market. It just was well thought out. Well thought out.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have to thank Mayor Panto for that, because we were bouncing around a couple different locations, and he came in the one meeting with this location, and it was like a light bulb went off. It's like, it has to be that
Well
spot.
thought out.
That's good. That's
Quick,
great.
quick question. So, is there like a formal like a coalition or group that you guys have?
We'll be forming that next.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I mean, so far it's just been, for the most part, us, but like Mr. Brown, Councilman Brown has said, there's been attempts in the past to get a skate park going, and it just seems like the time is right now with all the development happening. But to answer your question, yeah, so far it's just been us, but now that this is out there in the public, there's a lot of people in this community and resources, and I say resources by the people in the community, that we'll bring in to just get everyone's opinion and everyone's knowledge, just to be.
One of the things that it will be in remarks I make in a few weeks, but we will be utilizing our recreation fund, open space recreation fund that we created in 2009. Since we never have this many people here, all these new developments in downtown pay about $750 per bedroom that they build as into our open space and recreation fund, and it can only be used for parks and recreation. So this is where we would get, as we talked about in our meetings, we would tap that for some of it. We can't tap it for all of it. The $550,000, some of it has to come from the community, because like Patty's here, she knows the Heil pool, the Heil Park field house, which was named for Ed. That field house it's probably worth about $500,000, but it was done by local contractors who donated their time, and the city, we contributed, we said we would contribute $70,000 if they raised $70,000. So it was a match by the city. So for $70,000, we got a $500,000 field house that we didn't have. And for those of you who know anything about Little League in Easton, I love my experience in Little League, and we always, when I was a teacher, we always lose basketball players to Palmer Township and Forks Township because they had the best uniforms and everything else. They had snap-off pants, and they had everything. And so when we dedicated the field house to Ed, he was one of the coaches of a rival team when I was in. So that was a long time ago. He said, okay, well, our first game, I said, I don't want to do our first game. I'll do our third home game. It was Palmer Township. Because when I played football, Little League football, when you went to Palmer Township, they had a field house. Right. No one else had a field house. And you had a locker room, and it was really big time. So all the people from Palmer came up to me and said, well, how did you do this? And so you see now, almost 10 years later, they just built their field house, a new one. So I would like to tell you that as long as City Council supports the overall expenditure, which we don't know what it'll be yet, but I'm willing to work with you guys to move it forward to the next step, to create that 501c3, and then to start fundraising. And I hope everybody in here will help, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take fundraising to get it done.
Mayor.
Yeah, we would insure it.
And Mayor, we did set up that recreation fund through the community foundation.
That's right.
So we can work with area
we can
businesses
do
for
that.
tax
That's
credits.
right.
Yep.
Almost forgot it. So we could already have a community foundation in Lehigh Valley that if they contribute for the skate park, we would get the money and they get the benefits.
That was pretty much our whole presentation. Was there any other questions or comments anyone wanted to make before we wrap it up? Or?
Thank you for your vision.
Yeah, thanks
Hey,
very much.
Thank you all for letting us come up and speak.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mayor. And Frank, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment on agenda items only. Oh, you could, about the skate park,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, my name's Melody Rogers. I'm president of Southside Civic and Easton Block Watch, and I've been dealing with skateboarding forever.
Melanie, your address?
710 West Berwick Street.
Thank
East
you.
PA. Okay. AJ Rogers, my son, been skateboarding since he's been 2, so we've been involved. He's been ahead of a lot of things. He had skate church and everything. But what I wanted to bring up something here also. When we had the kids have the skate park at Polk and Wilkes-Barre Street, a lot of bad things happened. We don't want this stuff to happen again. We don't want the kids to happen. So we're thinking about suggesting this also. There's a lot of homeless people down there. They just probably need to be relocated because we don't want them to come over there and be hanging around there. Regular have police officers going down there. Also, we want working cameras to go down there because at the Wilkes-Barre and Folk Street, they had so much drugs up there at nighttime. It was pitiful, and there was a lot of bad things happening. So we really want to see those things taken care of and make sure it's safe for these kids, because we don't want to have them spend all this money for this wonderful, beautiful place that these kids can go to, and then have the drugs come down there and take over like they did the other place. Okay, so we as Easton Block Watch and Southside Civic are definitely going to help with that. To see what we can do to get somebody to get activity and get donations to help.
Counting on you, Mel.
What, honey?
We're counting on you.
I will definitely do that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on agenda items? Andy?
And you say you didn't want to speak, Andy.
Andy, I need your last name.
It's hard.
Spell it.
P-O. Do you need an address?
B-O?
P-O.
Oh, I was going to say. Yes, an address, please.
432 Northampton Street, Easton,
Thank you.
Pennsylvania. Just to kind of follow up on that last comment about the skate park that was in Southside, that skate park was around when I was probably in my late teens, and I lived in Bethlehem, and there's a couple other people here that are as old as I am. We used to drive from Allentown and Bethlehem just to go to that skate park on the south side, and we would be there all day long, all night long as we could be there, using that small skate park. That was the first skate park in the Lehigh Valley as far as my knowledge. And so when it got shut down, and the newspaper article, if I remember correctly, was saying it got shut down because of drug use and violence and fighting and things like that, it seemed like that was all pointed at the skateboarders. Like the people who were using it were being blamed for drug use and fighting at the only place in the Lehigh Valley that we had to go. And I don't ever think that it was fully cleared up that it wasn't the users that were the skateboarders, the bikers, the people who were going there out of their way just to have a place to go. It wasn't us. I mean, I was there all the time. I met so many kids there. I mean, Tevin, you were a kid. I met you a long time ago going there.
He's hiding back there.
And I just want that to be said because I feel like that has always followed skateboarding in the Lehigh Valley and in Easton, that it comes back to say, oh, well, remember the Southside skate park? There was problems there. Those problems did not come from the users. And I wholeheartedly believe that if this project happens, the users will take care of their spaces, because you see it in Bethlehem, you see it in and Allentown, and you even see it at the park that a lot of these people were, taking their own finances to build over in Phillipsburg. So just wanted that to be on the record because I feel like it was never said. So thank you.
Well, Andy, we appreciate your efforts in promoting the sport and as a sport, and glad that you're in downtown Easton with your business. And where did he get to? Oh, there he is. We have 2 skateboard businesses in town, and so we really appreciate that. We should have a skateboard park.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Just to echo what Andy kind of just said and to address that comment, the skate park on Southside, that was a different Easton. I mean, how many years ago was that, right?
And
And also, that park was in a residential area. So you had all these people in this residential area, so they're being bothered by the noise that a skateboard makes, all that. Again, the location that we picked, it's in the city, but it's not by residential. It should be policed the same as you would police a playground, a basketball court, a football field. You put the signage up. Our community is so tight-knit that we enforce the rules ourselves. We don't want to look bad because we know that the connotation is already there. It's like, oh, you're a skateboarder, you're one of those people. But it's not like that anymore, and that's why we put the Olympic slide in there. Say, hey, it's a sport. It's recognized internationally. It's in the Olympics. So it shouldn't be looked at any different than basketball, baseball, soccer. It's the same thing, should be policed the same way. It's not some boogeyman. It's not going to turn your kid into a drug user or something like that. Just wanted to get that out there. Thank you.
anyone else like to address city council?
I just want to thank you for everyone for coming out, and I think our city is much needed for skate park at this moment. And I just want to point out Brooke Mittman. This is something that I have been thinking for the last 2 years. So Brooke Mittman, she is real estate. She runs a real estate development company, and she's been trying to raise some fund for the skate park. So I think she could be a good fit for you. You might want to reach out to her and make sure, like, she has a lot of resources. And we are actually meeting next week sometime. I will ask one of you to just show up and bring your idea, and she would definitely be very helpful. Well, thank you for everything.
Patty?
Hi, Patty Hitzel, Hitzel, 424 Iron Street, Southside. It's a great idea. It's definitely needed. At our Southside Civic meetings, that was one point that we've made, to try to find a location on Southside again to put this park. I did the Little Rovers Fieldhouse project along with 6 other people and the mayor. It took us 4 years to raise that money, but the city did match us, and we got that field house, and if we can get that field house, you can get a skate park.
I would suggest to all the people who are here that are skaters, and or I guess they're boarders, the way we did the field house is that all the gentlemen who I played ball with are now contractors or work for contractors or are self-employed contractors, like Mark Benton did all the painting, Schrin Company did all the excavating, Amada Brothers did all the block, for free, and we just paid for the materials. This is a little different because it's going to take a shaper and a concrete pour, it's going to be a little different, I understand that, but wherever we can get volunteers, it's really helpful. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. Don't feel obligated to stay for the rest of the meeting. You can leave if you want to. I'm sure you want to stay, but no, I'm only kidding. Thank you. Move on to the next item, Madam Clerk. Consent agenda.
Okay. Under the consent agenda, we had bill number 32 that was introduced by Mr. Brown, which would amend the 2023 capital fund budget. We also had bill number 33 that was introduced by Mr. Brown that would amend the 2023 sewer fund budget.
I move the consent agenda.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mayor, can we pause for a second? Sure. Thanks.
I'll accept the report from the fire department for the month of September. Moving on to reports of committees, Finance Committee, Vice Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I have, we introducing tonight the general fund for 2023. and also amending the 2023 insurance casualty and property fund. That's all I have for this evening.
Economic Development Committee, Councilmember O'Connell.
Mayor, I will be introducing a resolution later on regarding a grant proposal. I also wanted to mention that I am a member of the Economic Vitality Committee and part of Easton Main Street Initiative. And we have recently completed a survey of approximately 290 downtown business owners. We are trying to develop a business retention and business recruitment plan. And this was just a great way of, a great data source for us in order to start putting that plan together. So that's coming along.
Very good.
Thank you.
Planning and Coach Committee, Councilmember Sultana.
I have no report, Mayor, but I do want to mention about the cities summit that we attended. It was great. We, there was some great sessions about affordable housing and community policing with social services. So I just want to say that it was great. And Pintabone elect and Crystal attended with us. It was like,
I'm not Pinnabone elect. I'm already been a Pinnabone.
that's a good one.
That was 44 years ago.
That's all.
Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Ruggles.
I have no report, but I do want to say that in our next committee meeting night, I do plan on discussing our implementation of our LiDAR. So I just want to throw that out and just have a general discussion on the implementation process.
Okay. Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan.
I have no report, Mayor.
Report of the City Solicitor, Mr. Scheer.
I'm trying to remember what happened between 5 and 6. I think I remember now. We had a session to discuss the lease that was taken off the table with the anticipation that something else will come back. But that was an executive session.
And it's in anticipation that I'll bring it back on the floor in a different form in 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. But anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
I might be expelled from the county from what I.
You can come to my office.
Thank you.
Also want to mention that last night, I want to thank Councilmember Ruggles and Councilman Pinnabone-elect that we were at the Easton Area School District meeting last night. The Board of Directors met to discuss LRTA, and Mr. Kingsley was there to make the presentation. I gave a few opening remarks, but that's a very important tool, economic development tool that we use, and it showed that basically it'll go from, the school district will go from getting $386,000 this year to getting $3.86 million in 10 years. It'll go up 10% a year, and they will not lose any taxes. It's not a tax cut or a tax break. It's just a incremental increase over 10 years. Also want to mention that the Hackett Park laser cut, Mr. Hopkins is here. It looks great. I was up there last night to look at it, and they were up there working. They were watering it, the hardball team. So they got a really good hardball field, and it was a hardball field that I played on was always a good.
Lumpy.
Yeah, it's much better now. They'll see more improvements to the parks and recreation program. The press box, I was over to see that. Mr. Campos and I will probably go up maybe tomorrow to actually go inside and see it. Also want to mention that the Garlic Festival this past weekend was a huge success. It was as crowded on Saturday as it was on Sunday. The weather didn't deter anyone from coming to stink up the city. And I just want to mention, I'm not bragging, but the city of Easton mayor won the mayor's cook-off again, and that's because I had Abe Lopez as my chef. And Abe is a winner of the Food Network Chopped, so if you may have seen him on TV, but he won the Chopped competition several years ago, and he's the executive chef at Stoke and Colonial. Our final pop-up festival is this Sunday. It is a big... we have a couple additional sponsors. Ashley's Signature Restaurant and R&R are going to be part of the sponsorship package. I'll be cooking hamburgers and hot dogs for the kids, give them free sodas and beverages, juices. But in addition to having Joyous, which is probably one of the best local bands around, we have Joyous as the entertainment. We also have Einstein the Camel. Now, if you remember Einstein, he was the one who had this picture in the paper in a snowstorm, in a blizzard, and he walked out, and they took him out of the thing, and they walked him up the hill. So Einstein's going to be there, and it's basically because Melinda, who owns Ashley's, basically was kind of upset with the festival that we had, where we had Einstein, and he only got to 6th Street. And she said that kids in Westward, very many of them can't get to a zoo, so they don't see camels. So we're going to have a camel and the petting zoo. So it's going to be a great day. That's on Sunday, not Saturday, and weather dependent, of course. At Vanderveer Playground, thank you. At Vanderveer Park, it's going to be noon to 4. And also, at the last meeting, we had some residents here to talk about Wood Avenue. Instead of me giving the drum roll, why don't I let Mr. Hopkins come up and tell us about Wood Avenue, what the decision that was made.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm glad I had time to prepare for this explanation. So we got some pushback on some of the traffic calming that we proposed for Wood Avenue, which included planted islands at each intersection. It was really a matter of, trying to get some of the parking off the corners so we could get the pedestrians more visible. Residents, it really wasn't even, it wasn't the amount of parking loss, it was just parking loss. So we decided to pull the islands out of the project, and we are going to go to, I think, more of a corner treatment, sort of a bump out type of traffic calming. It'll have the same effect of squeezing, squeezing the intersection down a little bit and shortening the crossing distance. I really originally liked the idea of the planted islands. I think it would have been a really nice aesthetic touch as well as an effective traffic calming measure. But, I also understand where the residents are coming from. Parking's tight in the neighborhood. So I think we'll end up at the same place. We'll just approach it differently. As far as where the project is, phase 1 is done. They've moved to phase 2, which is the next eastern phase. They'll take that down to 7th Street, where we'll flip the street one way west, or one way east rather, and make Church Street one way west, and also redo the Church and Prospect intersection.
Thank you. That's the end of my report. Mr.
Right.
Campos, City Administrator.
David, I have one quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
David, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Dave, there's a question.
With the bump outs, is that going to affect the parking then overall?
No.
Oh, really?
No, because I don't think we have the budget to actually use physical bump outs.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to try and use like painted bump outs with delineators.
I got you.
So
Okay.
no, we're going to remain sensitive
The bump outs are also where it's illegal to park.
to the parking. It is,
Can't
but
park that close to the corner. It could be 30 feet. We don't put, our bump outs aren't 30 feet wide.
no, they're not. But you're right. A lot of the parking that was being lost is technically illegal. But when you talk to the residents, they've
They
been
don't
doing
think
it
it's illegal.
for a long time, and they say, well, that's city
Especially
living.
on
And
football night. They don't
Yeah,
think
that
it's
right.
it is a tough
It's a
situation.
big area. It's a lot of houses on Wood Avenue.
There are.
Mr. David, I'm sorry, last question.
Sure.
So the bump pavement is just on Wood Street or Wood Avenue, or are we talking about throughout the city? Because I think we do need, some paint type bumps throughout the city. I don't know how can we work with PennDOT?
Well, if it's on a local road, the responsibility would really be ours. We only really need to work with PennDOT on state roads, and this was a segment of a PennDOT road that we took back in, I believe it was 2015. For that very reason, PennDOT was not willing to do improvements at that time to Wood Avenue, and it really had been in the same state since probably 1955, I think, when it was built. So, so this is also a road reconstruction project as well as a traffic calming project.
I was down there last night. Just with the concrete down is better. I didn't say cement.
It is. It is. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campos.
Mayor, two quick things for council. Number one, I believe you should have received the schedule for the budget hearings. So in discussing with the mayor our approaches, because as you can see, it's fairly packed, but we would ask that council send over any questions if you may have, and you can. And I'm not trying to not have those questions in an open dialogue, but if you have questions that you have and you want to send it over to us prior to the meeting, especially prior to those budget presentations, please do so we can present. Our format this year is going to be one in which we're going to give a short overview of our department like we typically do, and that's more for the public because I know many of you know how we operate. But the second part is going to be, rather than go line by line, we are going to ask council to give us some specific questions online. Now, it's your prerogative to go in any direction that you want, but I'm just requesting that. The second item is that I do want to mention that Shakira Martindale has taken a position with Scranton, with the city of Scranton. It's a director's position for their RDA. We had a nice send-off for Shakira. We're definitely going to miss her. We tried to keep her, but I just wanted to let everyone know. I just had a discussion with Kathy Presto outside, and she wasn't aware that Shakira was no longer with us, so I figured it was a good opportunity to make that comment public. But she's certainly going to be missed, and we had a nice send-off for her about a week or so ago. Thank you.
And I'd like to tell you that Mayor Cognetti from Scranton called me to make sure it was okay. And I would never stop someone who went from a deputy position to executive director. She will be the executive director of Redevelopment Authority in Scranton. So it's a big bonus for her. It's also closer to where she lives, and we wish her well.
To her credit, she obtained her MBA when she was here. And then we did work with her very closely. So I think in terms of supporting her in her role, but at the end of the day, it's 20 minutes away from her where she lives, and
No brainer.
it's just it's good for her.
Sure. Well, I think it speaks well for the administration too, because you have people who are coming along in their careers, and you're obviously helping them.
Yeah.
And that allows them to get those jobs that are a step up the ladder, if you will.
You're
And
right.
So I think that's a great compliment for the administration.
I have a question, Mr. Lewis. Since we are discussing job and positions, we voted on creating a position for assistant advocate, right? Community advocate, and then we set the salary and everything. And then I think Valerie Davis was here. That's what her name is?
That's her name.
Right, yeah. So just want to make sure, like, what happened to her position? She never started her job.
Well, a couple of things, and I can certainly take this into executive
Yeah,
session.
excuse me, yeah, I was just going to interrupt, because any personnel matters really should be done in executive session,
I
because
think we
there
should
could
take
be
I
privacy
think we should go to
concerns.
executive session.
Sure.
5 minutes. It'll take 5 minutes.
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Well, can we adjourn first?
Well, the first part of the question I think is one that could be addressed with publicly.
But there's other issues that Mrs. Sultana brought up at a
We can certainly
another
go to
meeting.
executive session.
I'd rather discuss it in private, but there was accusations that there's.
It's your prerogative.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Shear, you still?
No, it's up to you if you want to adjourn now, or at the end of
we'll do it
conclusion
at
of
the
the
end of
meeting, we'll
do
have
it
a
at the-
short meeting.
I'm fine. I can
And,
stay all
and
night.
I'll amend my solicitor's report to say that there was an executive session at the conclusion of the meeting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Unfinished business, Madam Clerk, there's one issue. Bill number 31.
We have bill number we had bill number 31 that was introduced by Mr. O'Connell that would amend chapter 54 of the Ethics Code of the City of Easton.
So introduced.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was already introduced.
So moved.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
I had a question, Mayor. I mean, we passed this a few months ago. So kind of, what was the catalyst for reintroducing this to revoke what we did?
I don't think it's right to ask a volunteer who volunteers for the authorities, boards, and commissions to not be eligible for a grant that the city may give. They have no decision-making in the process. They are not involved in the process. It's hard enough to get the residents to serve on authorities, boards, and commission. Now you're telling them that they can't get grants that all the other residents could get. I just think, I just put it out there that I thought, and when I talked to a couple of the council members, they agreed. Our authorities, boards, and commissions don't get paid, and I think that's one of the perks is to apply. And very frankly, we've had very few people apply for the facade grants.
Okay.
Any other discussion, Mrs. Sultana?
I was gonna ask the same question. Thank you.
Roll call.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana,
Aye.
Mayor Piento,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Moving on to new business.
Okay. We have, hold on. We have bill number 35 being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would amend the 2023 general fund budget.
So introduced.
And we have bill number 36 also being introduced by Mr. Brown that would amend the 2023 insurance casualty property fund budget.
So introduced.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. O'Connell that would approve the allocations, 2023 allocations for the CDBG block grant.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor Piento.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
And Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, asking council's permission to purchase a new aerial truck for the electrical department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion.
I read that, by the way. I thought it was a new truck for the fire department. I was so excited. For $200,000. I was so excited. I legit thought
For $198,000.
Hey, listen.
$100,000.
Hey, listen. Crazy things have happened, but I was so excited. And then
That'd be a lottery.
it's the electrician department, so I was sad.
Roll call. They
Mr.
do.
Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
And Mayor Piento.
Aye.
We also have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, also council to authorize permission to replace a garbage packer truck.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
Mayor Piento.
Aye.
And Mr. Brown.
Aye.
We have a resolution also being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, also asking council's approval to purchase a new utility truck also for the electric bureau.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
Mayor Piento.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which would approve a proposal between the City of Easton and HT Lions, and that would be for the balancing of all the City Hall air handling units, which would also include the tenant spaces.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
Mayor Piento.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
And Mr. Milan.
Aye.
At this point, I mean, we're public comment on any agenda item or non-agenda item, anything dealing with City of Easton. Mr. Ravitz? You're going to have to come to the microphone, only because it's being videoed for people watching us at home. We want them to hear you and see you.
Gotcha. Artie Ravitz, 144 Church Street. I would like to know how many applications we had for the housing grant frontals.
Mr. Kingsley, how many housing facade grants we have? 120 total.
That's not so little.
No, I also should mention that we had 40 applications for police tests that will take place this weekend.
And this is
Second
for, Mayor,
question
this, the 120 is for the facade program?
Facade.
Thank you.
Would you be kind enough to explain that last resolution for me? I don't understand what that was about.
The one with HT Lions?
Yeah.
Basically, it's to balance all the air conditioning. Go ahead, Mr. Hopkins, and correct an issue. Hopefully.
So we had our HVAC engineer in the building, and most of the building is actually operating under negative pressure, which means that we're exhausting more than we're actually resupplying with the makeup air unit, and it's making the building incredibly inefficient. so you're colder by windows and you're less comfortable. It's really an exhaustive process. It's going to take their crew about 3 weeks to come in, take measurements of every valve in the ceiling, make sure everything is working right, looking at the air handlers, and just balancing the whole building. His estimate is that this will pay for itself pretty quickly, by not exhausting air conditioning and heating and then trying to keep replacing it, because I think the system is working way harder than it needs to.
Good. Spend money to save money. Anyone else like to address City Council? Mr. Pinnabone?
Frank Pinnabone, 1107 West Berwick Street, Easton. At Planning Commission on Wednesday, we unfortunately saw a monstrosity of residential project, 7 townhouses be put on the corner of Reynolds and Berwick Street. I spoke against it. Many residents from Southside spoke against it. It's not what we want in our neighborhood, unfortunately, because of the way the comp plan, planning, zoning is written. They followed everything they were supposed to follow, so there was no leg to stand on to deny it. So it was approved. At that meeting, I mentioned to Mr. Narosky, I would like to see, and I know, Mayor, I spoke to you about this the other day, and you know what I'm talking about. I'd like to see the planning, land use, codes and things be opened up for the community. I think they were from 2008. It was a different time in 2008. A lot of those things that they allow for in the neighborhoods just aren't beneficial for our neighborhoods anymore. I'd like to see community members come in on that and be able to voice their concerns or what they'd like to see in their neighborhood. I know that we might have to look at, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, we might have to look at reopening the comp plan because the city has changed. I know it's a big task, but the city has changed so much since it was done. And, I think it needs to be changed now. I talked to Mr. Narosky. He has created some amendments that he's going to bring to you and
We have 'em.
Lewis. You have them already, okay.
Had them for about 2 weeks. Yeah, we have.
Okay, which is great. But what I wanted to ask Mr. Narosky, and he's very talented. He's great at what he does. But as I said to him, he doesn't live in these neighborhoods, right? So I think we need to get input from the residents. So if we can do that, I'd be really grateful, and I know the residents would be as well.
And just to piggyback on what you said, Mr. Pinnabone, I had some conversations in the last couple of weeks in reference to the Flea's old property. A lot of tenants up in arm about that, what's going in there. But as I told them, I said, when them letters go out to the public, they have to respond so that they can come to these meetings and voice their opinion. A lot of times what happens is in reverse, and it's almost too late. So I'm glad to hear that.
Councilman, if you have an issue with the Fleas Club, wait till I show you the drawings of what they're putting on Berwick and Reynolds.
I know where you live.
That's gonna
Corner
really
kitchen.
make you go. Huh?
It was the corner kitchen.
It was. I didn't know that. I wasn't born. So it was good to. I had no idea.
I read about it in the history.
Yeah, I know you did. and to your point, the residents did come out, but unfortunately, because the way it's written, they presented the way they were
Just
supposed to.
to let you know, our procedure is that Lewis and I are meeting with Stephen to go over our own concerns about what is being proposed. And then a residential, a citizens meeting will be held, just like we held for the disposition of property. And then it'll come to city council, so the residents will have the opportunity to come to the residential meetings and then also to city council when city council has their hearings on the zoning code. That's great.
Yeah, and I think planning commission also gets.
The planning
reviews
commission
and
also
changes.
gets a shot at it. And the SALDO, the subdivision land use development ordinance, will be looked at the same time.
That was. Thank you very much.
Good.
Last thing I just want to mention is Councilwoman Sultana brought up the Pennsylvania Municipal League this past week, where she attended. Myself, Councilwoman-elect Crystal, and the mayor was there. And I got to tell you, I was very impressed with the way that I can't speak for Crystal, but the way I was kind of treated because of Mayor Panto. They really hold Mayor Panto in high regard. Officials from every part of the state were just all looking for Mayor Panto. When I introduced myself, they didn't care about me. They wanted to know where Sal was. So, but they treat us really good when they found out we were from Easton and we were with Sal. So, Mayor, thanks again for being a great representative of the city.
Listen, you'll do well. It's an organization that everyone should be involved in. It's benefited this city with over $100 million worth of grants. I would also mention that I forgot to mention under my report that I gave the Easton Voting Award was started by Mayor George Smith, who was a Southside physician for many years, and then he was a mayor for 2 terms, and then he was on city council at the end, and before he passed on, and I was able to name the bridge after him going over to Southside. But we give out this Easton Voting Award is to the member of the Pennsylvania Municipal League that has the highest voter turnout. And this year, the city of Monongahela, which is out in the West Washington County, out in the western part of the state past Pittsburgh, they had 62.9% voter turnout. How's that compared to our 27%, huh?
And that's every year, isn't it?
Every year. I think it was the 3rd year that they actually won it.
They won several times.
They won several times. Anyone else like to address city council? Oh, right here.
Hi, I'm Monica McGagan, 349 Ferry Street. That's MC, capital A, G-H-O-N.
MC,
And I would like,
I'm sorry, spell it again?
MC,
Okay.
capital A, G-H-O-N, McGagan.
And the address again?
349 Ferry Street.
Thank you.
All right. I am reading a letter from Lynn Fraser of 1044 Ferry Street. She and her husband, Jim Bloom, went on a little vacation to New York State, but asked me to read this letter, which is as follows. As you all are aware, the majority of the houses on the north side of the 900 block of Ferry Street burned this summer. It is my understanding that sometime in the not-too-distant future, those houses are slated to be demolished. When the fire occurred, by some miracle, the trees in front of those houses were spared. I am writing this to ask that the trees be preserved when the buildings are raised. They were planted in 2019 by volunteers, including my husband, Jim Bloom, and me, and they have done quite well and started to really take off this year in terms of growth. They are living things, and after surviving the fire, I hope their preservation will be a top concern for the city. Sincerely, Lynn Fraser. And I want to add that I really like what the arborist is doing in terms of putting trees around, especially since at 351 Ferry Street, Michael Perry's departing. Before he sold the building, he ripped out a tree and planted something. As soon as it was sold, it died. But the city arborist came and replaced it with a nice tree that's thriving. And as you know, the first year they sleep, then they creep, then they leap. And it's working. As well as the tree that was knocked down opposite the Lebanese church by the Lebanese rectory. It was a Dykes truck full of lumber that came around the corner too fast and hit it and boom, down. But there's another tree there. And I would like to also see like an identifier on the trees. I mean, a lot of them are the same, but Lafayette College does a wonderful job of putting an identity marker on the tree as to what kind of tree it is. So, I mean, it's a great nature thing for kids or people going by to learn more about nature and the importance of trees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address city council? Seeing none, I'll move, accept a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion?
No discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna go into, he announced it. We're gonna go.
Mr.
Roll call.
O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Thank you.